Convicted human sex trafficker Michael Buck was about to be released from federal prison, but he still held a vendetta. He wanted to kill United States District Judge Gary A. Fenner, the man who had sentenced him to prison some 15 years before, and the judge wasn't his only target. Buck had been up nights watching forensic science-filled murder documentaries for roughly a year before his release. He had learned how, as he later stated, to get away with it. Buck had been heard only by 2 other prisoners in private saying, "And if I can't get at them, I'll go after their kids." His second target was Assistant United States Attorney Cynthia, the lead federal prosecutor on the case all those years prior, and Buck, only now weeks from being released, stated that he really wanted to make her suffer. He told a fellow inmate, "I'm going to tie her to a chair. I'm going to duct tape her eyes open, and I'm going to make her watch while I beat one of her grandkids to death right in front of her, and then I'm going to kill her." But what Michael Buck didn't know is that on this occasion, the one and only time he had ever laid out and discussed the details of his plans to anyone, he was being recorded. Then he went on to discuss how he had found their addresses, saying, "I don't even think I can make it out of the halfway house knowing where these people live, without killing them before I am released from there." Federal halfway houses allow recently released federal inmates out into the community to search for and secure employment during the day. Most use it for just that purpose. But most are not self-asserted psychopathic criminals out for revenge against the court personnel who sent them to prison. Many are just trying to get their lives back together. Buck explained how he had come to possess the addresses of these federal officials. "People are stupid, they put their addresses right out there on the internet." Buck had been in possession of a contraband cell phone that had been secreted into the prison. A relatively common thing in U.S. facilities. But he had no idea he was being taped. Former bank robber, a man who many who know him, even some federal prison employees, said that they believe that God has changed his life, stated that his Lord Jesus had told him one night to get Buck recorded saying that he was planning to kill these people after he was released. And Terrell says he even spoke back to God, saying, "Lord, how am I going to do that? I can't bring the subject up." Buck had only mentioned it a couple of times. But the next day Michael Buck approached Terrell ranting about how he would kill a newborn baby, related to the prosecutor. Terrell says he later thought that Buck could have seen a photo of a baby in her family on Facebook or something. U.S. prisoner may have saved the lives of federal judge. U.S. prisoner may have saved lives of federal judge, federal prosecutor, along with 1 or more of their grandchildren. Little Rock, Arkansas. It became the position of the U.S. government in early 2024 that federal prisoner and formerly convicted bank robber William Lee Terrell of Zavala, Texas may very well have saved the lives of United States District Judge Gary A. Fenner, along with a federal prosecutor and members of their family, when he surreptitiously recorded human trafficker Michael Buck explaining his plans to kill the officials along with their grandchildren. Michael Buck, who was set to be released from federal prison in April of 2024, was quietly relating his plans to kidnap the grandchild of a federal prosecutor who was responsible for the 15-year federal prison sentence he was just then completing, when Terrell worked to modify a prison MP3 player so as to create a recording of Buck's designs. In January of 2024, only days after Buck had made the statements, Terrell communicated with the U.S. Marshals through the courts as to the impending danger to the government persons, including the details regarding his being in possession of the recording and providing with the letter a written transcript he had formulated. In February, the U.S. Marshal Service met with Mr. Terrell at the prison where both he and Buck were housed in Forest City, Arkansas, whereupon Terrell provided them with an audio copy of Buck's statements. A federal investigation was then commenced to determine the validity of the allegations and assess the threat. Experts with the FBI analyzed and ascertained the reliability of the recording, investigated Buck's background, and finally came away verifying the threat to be real. Especially after Buck attempted to elude Special Agent Lenny Johnson by lying about his statements in an interview, not knowing the government was in possession of the recording. In the recording, Buck stated that he would kidnap the grandchild of the federal prosecutor, tie the government attorney to a chair, tape their eyes open with duct tape, and force the government lawyer to watch as he beat the youngster to death. In a rush to save lives, Assistant United States Attorney, ASA, Bart Dickerson, along with his colleagues at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Little Rock, managed to secure an indictment against Michael Buck only days before his scheduled release set for April 17, 2024. Buck then attempted to post bond, and this is when he learned of the existence of the recording, as Asa Dickerson played the audio in open court before a U.S. magistrate judge presiding over the bond hearing. Buck had stated in the recording that he had already acquired the addresses of his targets by using contraband cellular smartphones in the prison. He is allegedly heard stating, "Nothing can stop it. I'm going home." It was the position of the Justice Department that Michael Buck's release on bond constituted an immediate danger to the individuals he asserted that he planned to kill. Included was United States District Judge Gary A. Fenner, a Clinton appointee and senior judge on the court for the U.S. Western District of Kansas. Buck had allegedly stated that he would assassinate the older man with a deer rifle as he left his home. While Buck told the FBI and the Special Investigative Services, SIS, detectives with the Federal Bureau of Prisons that the statements about his having found the addresses of the individuals he had allegedly stated plans to kill could not be true, this because he had been in prison for 15 years, and had never used a smartphone nor a computer connected to social media platforms. Terrell provided another recording of Buck explaining in detail that he maintained 4 different Facebook pages and described the intricate methods he used to create false accounts on the site so as to fool individuals into believing they were communicating and interacting with someone else. Finally, in a discussion about the difficulty of success, Buck stated that killing his victims and getting away with it was going to be easy. Everybody, even staff, saw that TV on those murder documentaries all night long, but only a couple of us knew why, said Terrell in a correspondence to CBS and FOXNEWS. I guess for him it was like a college course. I believe that at this point Buck could teach his own class on forensic homicide science. He's literally watched hundreds of them well into the morning, even on days when he had to go to work early in the barber shop. And when he wasn't watching them, he would lie in bed listening to them on his headphones. The victims in Buck's prior human trafficking case stated in court records that he was very violent with them and that they were routinely terrified that they would be murdered if they refused to comply with his orders to perform sexual acts on him and his clients. Further, while the judge, the prosecutor, and grandchildren may all now be safe, it appears that Terrell may still be at risk. In an independent investigation conducted by the Special Investigative Services, SIS, and Internal Affairs for the Federal Bureau of Prisons, BOP, it was verified that there was a still threat to Terrell's life instigated by Michael Buck both just before and after his arrest, through his contacts with gangs and other security threat groups in and throughout the nation's federal prisons. Buck has more money than most in prison, and in the federal system, as little as $500 can easily get someone stabbed by a team of 2 or 3 inmates. Said Terrell, I plan on trying requesting that the BOP put me in state placement in a state prison, because it doesn't seem that he has contacts beyond the feds. I don't know. At one point in the recordings, Buck allegedly states that he would take a ball-peen hammer to smash the head of a newborn baby, relative to the prosecutors who sent him to prison. Terrell believes that Buck may have been referring to a newborn that he had seen on one of the Facebook posts of a family member of one of the officials. Finally, based upon general statements Buck allegedly made in recordings, he may be suspected of at least 2 murders from years ago. Terrell claims to have a copy of all of the recordings being used by federal law enforcement and prosecutors, but says that he will not release them to the media without permission from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Michael Buck is currently set for trial in April 2025, which will be held in Little Rock, Arkansas. For more info on this case, visit www.pacer.gov, Eastern District of Arkansas, United States versus Michael Buck. Michael Buck attempted to take the case to trial. He claimed that it was all a lie. But the recording didn't lie. In the 20-minute-long diatribe against the judge and federal prosecutors, where Buck stated plans to kill someone in their bloodline, he had also stated toward the end of the recording, and the beautiful thing is, nothing can stop it. I'm going home. Buck forced the government prosecutors to prepare for trial, and then filed several and numerous motions attempting to stop the trial from ever happening. During this period it is stated that Buck also attempted to coerce witnesses over social media from the Pulaski County Jail, where he was housed in Little Rock, Arkansas, to either not testify at all or to testify for the defense. But Buck continued to press the issue of not admitting his guilt, and instead headed on to trial. And this despite the existence of the recording. Yet on the morning of the trial, after jury pool had been seated in the courthouse for selection, Michael Buck asked the judge to stop the proceedings, so that he could plead guilty. United States Attorney Jonathan Ross was not impressed. Mr. Ross, having been appointed under President Biden, and confirmed during the same period to lead the United States Department of Justice in the Eastern District of Arkansas, carries authority over half of that entire state. In early 2025, Just after the election of President Donald Trump, Ross, like many others who held positions acquired under the previous administration, was slated for removal. Indeed, the president had ordered his termination. However, the president did not personally know the United States attorney, and with so many appointments and reappointments, it is likely he was not thoroughly apprised of Mr. Ross, nor his reputation for being fully apolitical in his execution of duties to the office. But Mr. Trump was soon told that letting go of this longtime government lawyer was potentially a grave mistake. It is recognized by members of both parties that Mr. Ross is a leftover, or a reinstitution, of an ideal feared gone in America, a truly politically neutral government official. After it was explained to the president who this man was, and the degree of respect held for him in the government across the board, the president immediately reinstated him. And now Michael Buck, albeit likely unknowingly, was facing the mind and heart of this man sworn to protect to the Constitution of the United States, but also committed to protecting the lives and both physical and psychological security of those who are dutied with enforcing its laws. And Mr. Ross had heard the recording Michael Buck self-asserted, as some state viscerally hate-filled murderous plans to kill some of those very officials. Given the government's definition of terrorism, Buck's act, had he been able to follow through, would have been classified as an act of terrorism. 18 U.S.C. Sec. 2332b, G. 5, A, states that terrorism, according to federal law, is an offense that is calculated to influence or affect the conduct of government by intimidation or coercion, or to retaliate against government conduct. United States Attorney Jonathan Ross and specifically Assistant United States Attorney Bart Dickinson had worked very hard on this case. Mr. Dickinson, a veteran prosecutor, is said to be known for being very thorough, and had prepared a case against Michael Buck that there was no escape from. And this was what seemed to be behind Buck's sudden about-face the day of the trial. The victims were there, the judge and the prosecutor he had stated he planned to kill, along with their family members. He knew full well that the recording Terrell had made would be played for the jury. And Terrell wasn't the only witness. There was one other mystery witness. The prosecution had not revealed this person's name in filings, but they were ready to testify also. Though the risk was great. Testifying for the United States government is a very dangerous endeavor, especially when you are a prisoner. And even worse, if you are a federal prisoner. In the country's federal prison system, such a task automatically triggers a death warrant from the criminal elements running the system's inmate politics. Especially in a case such as this one, where a criminal prosecution was the result of an inmate providing information to the government regarding criminal behavior going on inside the Wasavan prison. One federal prisoner speaking anonymously stated, "What Terrell did will automatically bring pretty much the whole prison system down on him. Yeah, folks all know that he was protecting lives of people and stuff. I mean, some of us have known for years and know him. We know he's always been on the Jesus thing, and a lot of people even respect that. But he made a recording inside a prison. He basically wore a wire on somebody. It doesn't matter why, he's now a danger to things in here, like drugs and other stuff. For a lot of folks, they look at it like, you just can't have somebody like that around. So there's only one thing to do. And it ain't just the gangs and the drug dealers and the cars, criminal groups inside the prison, it's also the staff. The guards, many of them don't like the idea of being recorded in here either. A lot of things happen in here, if you know what I mean. The problem now is William Terrell's safety. Experts agree that the Federal Bureau of Prisons, BOP, lacks both the infrastructure and a functional system to protect government witnesses from the threat posed by other inmates. Their main solution? Solitary confinement. But critics argue this is not protection, it's punishment. The same tool used to discipline violent offenders in prison is now weaponized against those who risk their lives to assist law enforcement and federal prosecutors. The Bureau defends this approach as one of its only available methods of protection. Yet, it is widely seen as one of the federal system's greatest failures, a deterrent that discourages inmates from cooperating in federal investigations. Many believe that countless violent crimes go unsolved, or are never reported, because inmates fear retaliation not just from fellow prisoners, but from the very system they try to help.